Live from London, this is BBC News. Parties make their final pitches to the public on the last full day of general election campaigning. A Conservative cabinet minister tells the BBC he accepts polls are pointing to a massive Labour majority.
I'm Jessica Parker with the Labour campaign as Sir Keir Starmer embarks on a last-dash tour of Wales, Scotland and England.
Hurricane Beryl heads towards Jamaica, where it's expected to bring life-threatening winds and torrential rains. And the mother of the missing teenager, Jay Slater, reveals her pain and agony after police end the search for her son in Tenerife. Hello, I'm Marianne Mashiri. A very warm welcome to BBC News today. On the last day of election campaigning, a Conservative cabinet minister has told the BBC he accepts that if the polls are correct, the Labour Party is heading for the largest majority this country has ever seen. Mel Stride's comments come as party leaders head into their final campaign events. The Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, has told a Conservative Party rally he would fight for every vote, while Labour leader Keir Starmer insists people who want change have to vote for it. Here's our political correspondent, Helen Catt.
The Labour leader says this morning that he wants people to have more money in their pockets. And if Labour win on Thursday, he says he wants them to be better off in 5 years' time than they are now. He also told The Times he wants public services to improve by then too. But he said he would need a strong mandate, lots of votes in support, to do it, as there would be difficult choices. A message he was reiterating yesterday on the campaign trail.
If you want change, you have to vote for it. The polls do not predict the future. Constituencies like this will be very, very tight on Thursday. So every single vote counts. Every single vote has to be earned. And we have to make sure that until the polls close at 10 o'clock on Thursday, we are earning the respect and the trust of the confidence of voters across the country, because change will only come if you absolutely vote for it.
Rishi Sunak will aim his message directly at wavering voters later. The Tories will claim a small number of people in tight races could stop a big Labour win by lending the Conservatives their vote. He'll agree that a big Labour majority is not a foregone conclusion, but unlike Keir Starmer, he'll warn it would be damaging if it happened, as he did in a speech to supporters last night.
On Thursday, it is not a by-election. It is not a referendum on our party or the past. It is a choice about the future of our country and what that future means for you and your family. If there is an unchecked, unaccountable Labour Party in power with a supermajority, think what that would mean for everyone. A Labour Party with a blank cheque to do whatever they want.
Also talking about lending votes, the Liberal Democrat leader. Sir Ed Davey told The Guardian he thinks people are getting into the swing of tactical voting, where people who usually back different parties support the candidate best placed to beat the Tories. He claims that will make this election a once-in-a-century chance to change the political geography of the UK. Yesterday, he criticised the Conservatives' ability not just to govern, but to be in opposition too.
The Conservatives have been a failed government. They'd be a failed opposition. They're so divided, they can't even provide a strong opposition. If people want a party that's got principles and values and ideas and great local champions to oppose whoever is in government, the Liberal Democrats are here to do that.
We fought a really strong campaign.
The SNP is claiming today that the result in Scotland is too close to call and says a Labour government in Westminster would mean more austerity, which Labour has previously denied. All parties know they don't have long left now to make up voters' minds. Helen Catt, BBC News.
Well, an indication of just where the Conservatives see things heading has come this morning from the Work and Pensions Secretary, Mel Stride. Speaking to Emma Barnett on the Today programme on Radio 4, he conceded that a massive Labour majority was on the cards. Have a listen.
So I totally accept that where the polls are at the moment means that tomorrow is likely to see the largest Labour landslide majority, the largest majority that this country has ever seen. Much bigger than 1997, bigger even than the National Government in 31. What therefore matters now is what kind of opposition do we have? What kind of ability to scrutinise government is there within Parliament? And that is a strong reason to not give the Labour Party that.
So, sorry, you have accepted, as Working Pensions Secretary, that the election is lost?
I have accepted that where the polls are at the moment, and it seems highly unlikely that they're very, very wrong because they've been consistently in the same place for some time, that we are therefore tomorrow highly likely to be in a situation where we have the largest majority that any party has ever achieved.
So you could say the Conservatives have lost?
We are fighting for every single vote.
Well, that was Mel Stride. Let's cross and speak live to our chief political correspondent, Henry Zeffman. I don't know about you, Henry, but I just find that quite strange to come out with that the day before the election. What is he trying to do here?
I can think of some stronger words than strange. This is not normal. It is not typical, to state the obvious, for a cabinet minister, or indeed any politician really, to essentially concede defeat the day before millions of voters go to the polls and actually determine what the outcome of this general election is. So what is Mel Stride trying to do? Well, look, it's been clear for a few weeks that the Conservatives think that their best hope of averting a vast Labour victory is, perhaps counterintuitively, to talk up a vast Labour victory. And that's what they've been doing for ages with the supermajority rhetoric, which we've all become familiar with. But this goes way beyond that. This is not a possible supermajority that Mel Stride was alluding to. He said it was almost certain that Labour would win the biggest majority any single party has ever won. It's extraordinary rhetoric, and needless to say, I don't think this is what would have been in the Conservatives' campaign grid as their closing message when they called this election 6 weeks ago.
It's the final day of campaigning, Henry, and that final message, apart from Mel Stride's message, but what are the main parties trying to put forward today to voters on this very last day, last gasps?
Well, in a more low-key and less dramatic way than Mel Stride, it is basically the Conservatives' closing message that, as it stands, Labour are going to win and going to win big. And so Rishi Sunak will be using that supermajority language as he campaigns in the southeast of England this afternoon to try to win back Conservative waverers. I think, actually, what he's doing in trying to talk up how big a Labour victory could be is he's not really targeting that message at people who might vote Labour, but actually at people who might vote for Reform UK or for the Lib Dems. He's trying to win them back to the Conservative fold, almost pitching the Conservatives as a strong opposition rather than as a potential party getting a fifth term in government, which is what they would get if they win this general election. And actually, a lot of the smaller parties, they're also arguing that this election is a foregone conclusion because they want potential Labour voters to decide that they can vote for a different party because the course of government is fixed. So you end up in this funny position where Labour, and Keir Starmer is campaigning in England, Wales and Scotland today, and Labour are basically the only party here saying that a Labour victory isn't inevitable. It's all a bit shaken up. But what you will hear from Labour today is that, yes, change, that one word that's been their slogan throughout this campaign, but that it only happens if you vote for it. And that's the message you will hear Keir Starmer hammering again and again, because they don't want potential Labour voters to stay at home or vote for someone else because they think that other people are doing the business of voting for Labour and getting them into government.
Henry, I almost want to ask you what is the stronger word than strange that you want to describe Mel Stride's comments as, but I'm not going to put you on the spot there. We'll talk about it privately later, perhaps. Henry, thank you very much indeed. Well, look, that's what the Conservatives are putting forward today. As Henry mentioned there, the Labour Party is in their final day. They're seeing themselves moving into England, Wales and Scotland. Let's cross live to Jessica Parker, who is on the Labour campaign bus with the Labour campaign. And I suppose Mel Stride's comments are the opposite of what Labour want to hear, because they're trying to push the point that if you want a Labour government, you have to vote for it, because they are worried that people aren't going to vote for Labour because people may think that it's a done deal.
Good morning. Yes, indeed. And good morning from a slightly drizzly southwest Wales, where Sir Keir Starmer is kicking off his Tri-Nation tour over the course of the day. So we're going to be in Wales, then we're heading to Scotland, and then finishing up a lot later today in England. So a real dash around the country. We haven't seen Sir Keir Starmer yet today. I think we will fairly shortly, where I'm sure he will be asked about these latest comments by the Work and Pensions Secretary, Mel Stride. I can almost, though, predict the answer that the Labour leader will give, because as Henry was reflecting, Labour are the last party to be talking about a potential Labour supermajority, or whatever term you want to give it, this prospect that the Tories are now talking up. Sir Keir Starmer's message has consistently been, and we've been following around the last couple of days, is that the polls don't predict the future, that he's not complacent, they'll fight for every vote, they've got to earn the trust of voters, and as well he keeps saying that there are constituencies, he claims, where it could go down to a few hundred votes. And as Henry was saying, and you're alluding to as well, what they might fear here is complacency amongst people who are maybe thinking about going out to support Labour, but if these warnings coming from the Tories of a so-called supermajority start hammering home, there might be a concern that actually they might not bother, or they might vote for somebody else. So I think Sir Keir Starmer will really stick rigidly to that message today, despite this kind of recent comment from Mel Stride, because I think for Labour, I mean, they do feel they could be, in private when you speak to them, very close to gaining power, but that's certainly not the public impression they want to give at the moment as they head into polling day.
Yes, as they head into polling day tomorrow, what's the mood on the bus?
Well, the bus, I have to be totally transparent, is a bus full of journalists. So basically we all get packed onto a bus along with other broadcasters and members of the press, and then we head to, usually, where Sir Keir Starmer and the Labour campaign is going to be. But when we get there, we do get to talk to activists, and I'm looking actually at a room full of Labour supporters just behind the camera there, and activists, and the mood is upbeat. Look, when you speak to people, as I say, in private, they are definitely upbeat. There are smiles on their faces. They feel something could be close. Yes, there is a nervousness too, I think, because of course polling day has yet to happen when most people actually cast their vote. But people do feel potentially that for the first time in 14 years, Labour could be getting close to power. I was watching Sir Keir Starmer yesterday do lots of different interviews, and I was listening in, or sometimes we get to ask the questions as well. And I heard one BBC journalist ask him whether he was nervous about the prospect of potentially entering Downing Street, not something he wanted to be drawn on. And he keeps being asked about what more detail he can give about what he would do if he were to become Prime Minister. And that's really where the conversation seems to be turning in terms of media questions to the Labour leader, because of this prospect, because of the consistent poll lead that Labour have had. And of course, all the usual cautious caveats should apply to polls, but a lot of questions about what a Labour government would look like, including Chris Mason, our political editor, asking him yesterday whether those people in the shadow cabinet would assume the positions in the cabinet if Labour were to win. Again, something Keir Starmer wouldn't be drawn on. And that is all because, of course, he doesn't want to look as though he has assumed he might win, as he keeps saying he'll fight for every vote, and indeed that the polls don't predict the future. So I think we'll get much more of the same of that today from the Labour Party.
Jess, thanks very much indeed. Jess Parker there with the Labour campaign. Well, Professor Sir John Curtice has been a key part of the election coverage in the UK, well, for the past 45 years, right? He's been telling us about how he thinks this election campaign has progressed.
There will, during the course of the day, be a forest of final opinion polls. But unless they show something dramatically different from what we've seen consistently throughout the course of the last 6 weeks, we are anticipating that the Conservatives are going to end up somewhere around 20 points behind Labour on Thursday night. Certainly that's been the message throughout the campaign. Yes, support for Conservatives has fallen, but support for Labour has fallen a bit as well, leaving the lead largely unchanged. But that kind of lead does point to a potentially heavy defeat for the Conservatives, and Labour getting a substantial overall majority, even though perhaps Labour may not get much more than around 40% of the vote. We're very, very surprised that the opinion polls that come out in the last 24 hours of this campaign are going to paint a dramatically different picture. Maybe they show the Labour's lead narrowing a bit. That's not inconceivable, but a 20-point lead is not going to suddenly disappear in the matter of the last 2 or 3 days of an election campaign. The truth is the Conservatives themselves have been acknowledging that the question is how badly do they lose, not whether they lose. And to be honest, that is where the uncertainty lies. Maybe in the end it's not as bad as some of the forecasts have been saying, and maybe we do end up with, let's say, around 150 Conservative MPs. But on the other hand, we can't rule out the possibility that it might end up being worse than that, and that Labour do end up with their biggest majority that they have ever managed to achieve. And that's where the uncertainty lies, and it is a not inconsiderable uncertainty. It could have important implications for the future of British politics. But as to who is going to be the tenant in 10 Downing Street, frankly, all bets are now on Sir Keir Starmer.
That was Professor Sir John Curtice, who'll be very busy, I'm sure, over the coming few days. As if you want to read a little bit more about the election or to see who the candidates are in your constituency, you're more than welcome to go to the BBC's website or the BBC's news app from wherever you are. But for now, let's take you to some other news, because heavy rain from Hurricane Beryl is lashing parts of Haiti and the Dominican Republic as the storm passes south of the two countries. Winds of up to 150 miles per hour have already caused extensive damage across the Caribbean, where 5 people are known to have died. The Category 4 hurricane is heading towards Jamaica, where the government has urged people to prepare for its arrival. This report from Will Grant.
If the nations which still lie in the path of Hurricane Beryl want to see what awaits them, they should look no further than Union Island. Situated off the coast of St Vincent and the Grenadines, the island's buildings were no match for the storm's destructive power. Around 90% have been destroyed or damaged. Roofs ripped off, power lines brought down, an entire community left in ruins. It was a similar story in other low-lying Caribbean islands, like Carriacou in Grenada.
1, 2, 3.
With Jamaica next on the storm's trajectory, the warnings have prompted people into action, many taking last-minute precautions to protect their homes and livelihoods.
So what to do, Ken Coat? Flatten Ken Coat. Right? I wouldn't like that in Jamaica because enough people don't have a good house. Right now, me afraid for my house that. Me not tell a lie. Because some of my think them have time, me have to tie them down yesterday. Because me take this serious.
For its part, the Jamaican government has been trying to stress the seriousness of the impending storm in the hope that people will heed the advice of the authorities.
Every area of government, from our disaster preparedness entity to the police force to our fire brigade, all aspects of the government are in a state of readiness, and we are ready for Hurricane Beryl, and we're working with our communities. Especially our concern is for those members of the Jamaican community that live in flood-prone areas or low-lying areas. And so we are working to start the process of thinking through evacuations that may be necessary for those individuals.
Satellite images of Beryl illustrate its terrifying size and its potential to unleash much more destruction in the Caribbean. As it moves, it has strengthened, first becoming a Category 4 storm, then a maximum level Category 5 with unprecedented speed. Jamaicans now just hope it weakens again on its approach to the island. People in the Caribbean are used to tropical storms, but Beryl is unique. No one has experienced a hurricane this strong this early in the season. It doesn't bode well for what is still to come. Will Grant, BBC News, Mexico.
Well, let's bring you back to the UK and to the general election. It is, of course, the last full day of campaigning for all the major parties, and the SNP is well and truly continuing its campaign trail. Let's cross to Scotland now and speak to our reporter Katie Hunter, who is with the SNP campaign. And Katie, talk me through what exactly the SNP is bringing forward as its final message ahead of the big day tomorrow.
Yeah, the SNP leader, John Swinney, is in the building behind me. He arrived here early this morning. This is the first of several campaign stops across the Central Belt today. To be honest, I've lost count of how many there are. I think there are around 5. And John Swinney's message today is that, in his opinion, this election is over. He says the results in England will mean that Labour will win this, that it will be a landslide. But what he's telling voters here in Scotland is that the race here is too close close to call. It's on a knife edge, and he hopes that that will motivate SNP voters to come out and vote for the SNP. Now, just for a bit of context, at the last general election in 2019, the SNP won 48 seats here in Scotland, compared to Labour, who won just 1 seat here in Scotland. But since then, the polls have suggested that the gap between those parties has really closed, and some recent polls have suggested that Labour are ahead here in Scotland, although, of course, polls are just polls and come with all sorts of health warnings. So the SNP battle bus just out of sight. Activists, John Swinney, about to get back on it and continue campaigning on this last full day of campaigning before the vote.
Katie, stay where you are just for a second, because I think we can now play a little clip of John Swinney from slightly earlier this morning. Let's have a listen.
The election is well and truly over and done with south of the border, and the issue for Scotland is who's going to protect Scotland's interests in the next Westminster Parliament. And people know they can rely on the SNP to do exactly that. So the SNP MPs who will go to the House of Commons will be campaigning against austerity. Labour are going to carry on the Tory austerity. I want SNP MPs to rail against austerity so we get investment in our public services. And I want to make sure SNP MPs are arguing to make sure that Scotland's interests are at all times protected, and people can rely upon that in the next Westminster Parliament. So people should vote SNP to protect Scotland and to make sure that we have a future that's made in Scotland for Scotland.
Labour obviously deny that austerity point. You say this election is too close to call, but you've been around long enough to know that the polls can be wrong. So surely for people who want a change in government at Westminster, the best thing for those people to do is to vote for Labour here in Scotland.
There'll be a change of government because the Tories have well and truly lost this election in England. So the question for voters in Scotland is, do they want more austerity from the Labour Party, or do they want to have SNP MPs who will put forward the Scottish interest and protect Scotland from austerity? That's what the SNP will do in the next Parliament, and act to make sure that we have a future made in Scotland for Scotland. So it's all over for the Tories. Labour will be the next government, but for Scotland, we've got to make sure Scotland's interests are protected, and only SNP does that.
For the SNP, what does success look like come Friday?
I want to win this election with a majority of Scottish parliamentary seats for the SNP.
Do you think you will?
That's what we're aiming to do, and that's what I'm confident that we'll do, and we're working very hard to make sure that happens in the country.
You're saying, that it is on a knife edge. Some of the polls are suggesting that Labour are ahead. You must be worried that you're going to lose a chunk of seats in Scotland.
The polls are showing a varied position. One poll this morning shows the SNP ahead in this election in Scotland. So let's just leave it to the voters to decide. They've got a simple choice. The Tories are out of the game. They've lost the election south of the border. In Scotland, for voters, if they want to stop austerity, stop a Labour government imposing more austerity in Scotland, they want to protect the Scottish interest and make sure we've got a future that's made in Scotland for Scotland, they've got to vote SNP.
But there's a limit to what the SNP MPs who are returned can achieve at Westminster. I come back to the point that if Scottish voters want a change in government, they should vote Labour.
There'll be a change in government on Friday because the Tories have lost the election comprehensively south of the border. Labour doesn't need any Scottish MPs to win this election. And for Scotland, do we want to have Labour MPs going from Scotland who will just do what they're told by Keir Starmer, or do they want SNP MPs who will stand up for Scotland, protect the Scottish interest and campaign against the austerity that the Labour Party is going to impose on Scotland, because they're going to carry on where the Tories have left off? So for people in Scotland, if they want to be protected from austerity, if they want to have the Scottish interest put forward at all times, they've got to vote for the SNP.
So that was John Swinney talking to our Scotland correspondent, Katie. And let's bring Katie back now into the conversation. Interesting, isn't it, that line that he was saying that we've reported on already on BBC News about if you vote for Labour, you'll get austerity back again. A warning from him.
Yeah, so there have been a couple of themes throughout this campaign that John Swinney's been pretty consistent on. He has talked about austerity, Brexit and the cost of living crisis, ABC as he describes it, and he blames Westminster and the Conservatives for all three of those. But as the campaign has gone on, he has concentrated more on the Labour Party, on Keir Starmer. I remember at the SNP's campaign launch around 5 weeks ago, he said that Labour, and I'm paraphrasing here, Labour aren't exactly the same as the Conservatives, but they're doing an awfully good impression possession of them. And that is a theme that he has stuck with, saying that for voters in Scotland, if they choose Labour, then in John Swinney's words, there will be a continuation of austerity. Now, of course, Labour absolutely reject that. And another theme that John Swinney has come back to time and time again is that of independence. I mean, it hasn't been quite as much to the fore as maybe some independent supporters would have liked, but John Swinney has made the point that, in his opinion, the only way to protect public services, to end austerity, is ultimately through independence.
OK, good to talk to you, Katie. Thank you very much indeed for that. As always, more on the SNP campaign trail on the BBC's website. Now, though, it's time for a look at the weather with Carol.
Hello again. If you have an allergy to pollen, today for most of us the levels are either low or moderate. The exception to that is across the far southeast of England, where the levels are high, and we're talking especially grass pollen at this time of year. Now today we've got two weather fronts bringing rain. The first one pushing into the North Sea, the second one moving from the west towards the east, and as you can see from the isobars, it's going to be a breezy day wherever you are. So as the rain clears away to the east, there'll be residual cloud and a few showers, some dampness left behind it. The second weather front also moves eastwards. It's later in the day that we see a return to sunshine and showers in western areas, with temperatures ranging from 12 to 18, possibly 19 in the far south. For Wimbledon today, well, play is likely to be interrupted with rain early doors, and then as that clears away, we're looking at a lot of cloud, which could produce some light rain or drizzle into the afternoon at times. Tomorrow is looking drier and brighter, but a bit windier. So this evening, you can see how the rain becomes ensconced in Shetland. Then we've got a plethora of showers across the northwest of the country. Here too, there'll be gusty winds, move further south, and it's drier and it's clearer, with overnight lows between 8 and 13 degrees. So then, as we head into tomorrow, we've got this little system scooting across the north of the country. And if you look at the isobars, it tells you it's going to be a windy day wherever you are. But the strongest winds will be in the northern half of the country. So we've got showers coming in courtesy of that weather front, some of them merging across Scotland to give some longer spells of rain. Could be heavy and thundery, come further south, and it's drier and brighter. These are the sustained wind speeds you can see in the circles. The gusts, of course, will be more than that. And our temperatures, 11 to 15 in the north, will feel cool in the wind and the rain. If you get out of the wind and into the sunshine in the south, 20 will feel quite pleasant. Now, Thursday night into Friday, we've got this next system coming in across southern areas. That too is going to introduce some more rain. It clears during the course of Saturday and the isobars open out, so it's not going to be as windy. But certainly on Friday, wet and windy in the south, sunshine and showers in the north, and it remains changeable as we head through the rest of the week.
I used to work the whole day when I was pregnant. I wouldn't take much rest. I remember being thirsty all the time and out of breath.
Acabamos de llegar al lugar donde va a comenzar la búsqueda del migrante desaparecido.
So from where we're at right now, we can see from left to right and right to left, a heavily wooded area denotes the border between North and South Korea. There are no fences, there are no barriers, and there are no walls that separate North and South.
زنایی که فقط باید سکوت کنن، هیچ کس نباید صدایشان رو بشنوه، صدای گپشان رو بشنوه. ما تصمیم گرفتیم که در اونجا باید صدامون رو به شکل آهنگ بیرون کنیم.
Just because we've got a disability doesn't mean that we are children. We are adults and with hopes and dreams. Without sports, none of us would be here.
Inspiring short films from the BBC. Watch now on iPlayer.
It's your bin.
It's your shopping.
It's your commute.
It's your tax. It's your business.
It's your home. It's your operation.
It's your environment. It's your safety.
It's your community. It's your future. If it's important to you, it's important to us. Our coverage will make sure your voice is heard. It's your election.
This is BBC News, the latest headlines for you. Parties make their final pitches to the public on the last day of general election campaigning. A Conservative cabinet minister, meanwhile, tells the BBC he accepts that polls point to a massive Labour majority. Hurricane Beryl heads towards Jamaica, where it's expected to bring life-threatening winds and torrential rains. And the mother of the missing teenager, Jay Slater, tells of her pain and agony after police end the search for her son in Tenerife. Now, the general election candidates will be fighting for every last vote in these final hours before polling day. And the Labour Party are continuing their campaign trail. Let's cross live now to Sir Keir Starmer, who is on the campaign trail and about to talk to Labour activists and workers. Let's have a quick listen.
Good morning and welcome. Croeso, welcome to Caerfyrddin, Carmarthenshire, welcome to Wales. In 2 days' time, we will know who the new Prime Minister is going to be. We will know whether we've persuaded people to turn a page on the last 14 years and to actually believe not just in what the other party, not just what the Conservatives have done to our country for the last 14 years, but the positive message, the change that we represent. I can tell you the last time I spoke to Keir Starmer was just a few days ago. We were not just what the Conservatives have done to our country for the last 14 years, but the positive message, the change that we represent. I can tell you the last time I spoke to Keir Starmer was just a few days ago. We were talking about the difference we could make for steel communities all across the country. That is the partnership we could have. Two Labour governments working together for Wales and Britain to take forward devolution, economic stability, a new deal to turn a page on the Tory cost of living crisis. Change can only come if we vote for it. The Tories are desperate for people to do anything other than vote Labour, anything other than to vote for change. I want my country to be in a better place for each and every family. I want people to go out, no regrets. Don't leave it to other people to make the choice for you. If you want change, vote for it. It is time for change. It is time to win. Time to vote Labour. Thank you.
Right, let's just leave that very briefly because Sir Keir Starmer hasn't actually started talking yet. We're expecting him to in a moment or so, but just to reiterate where we're at today, it's the last day, obviously, before the general election. Polling stations open. The campaign trail is always kept going, isn't it, until the very last moment. And Wales is one of the three nations that Sir Keir is going to visit. He's also going to Scotland and he's also going to be going to England as well. Now, we heard there momentarily about the symbiosis, the relationship between the Labour Party in Wales and, of course, the wider National Labour Party. Sir Keir very much focusing his attention on trying to get people to come out and vote. The Labour Party are saying in their final days of campaigning, if you want a Labour government, you need to vote for a Labour government. This coming just a few minutes after we heard Mel Stride, the Work and Pension Secretary, a little earlier on BBC Radio 4, effectively conceding the election to the Labour Party and telling people that he believes that the Labour majority will be massive, quote, the largest this country has ever seen. He says that what matters now is the opposition and its ability to scrutinise the government. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, both leaders are making their final pitches. We saw a rally for the Conservative Party yesterday where the former Prime Minister Boris Johnson got up to speak to those Conservative members at the rally. Let's cross live now. I think Sir Keir Starmer is back.
Desperately needs change, and that's why it's such a pleasure for me to introduce the man that I believe will deliver it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Martha, who's going to be a fantastic candidate, reminding us of the new talent that we've got coming through. A brilliant, brilliant candidate, and will be a fantastic Member of Parliament. And thank you, Vaughan. And when Vaughan said the last time we spoke was about Tata Steel, he was right just the other day. And I'll start with that because it's really serious and it shows the difference that a Labour government in Westminster could make here in Wales. Because when we saw what might happen in relation to Tata Steel in the latest development, our first act was to get in touch with each other within minutes, to talk one-to-one, and then to set up a meeting to decide how we would resolve the issue and make sure we did everything possible we could do to save jobs in steel, to save steel here in Wales. And I will directly contrast that with Rishi Sunak. Because when Mark Drakeford asked for a meeting to talk about Tata Steel, what did Rishi Sunak do? He said he was too busy to take a call. That is the difference that a Labour victory tomorrow will make, the working together, two governments working together to deliver for Wales. That is an incredible opportunity across Wales that we must take. And can I say thank you very much for that really warm welcome. We've been on the road for many, many days now. It's the last day on the road, and to walk in here to have that warm reception is absolutely fantastic. Don't underestimate what boost that gives us all as we go into these final hours towards tomorrow. I was last here when we were launching in Abergavenny, and then we went down to Barry for an ice cream. It was beautifully sunny. Vaughan assures me that this actually is liquid sun here that we've got today. But it was absolutely incredible. And we've been absolutely campaigning with a smile on our face, a spring in our step, because we've got a confident message about change to take forward and to be absolutely clear about the choice at this election. We've now had 14 years of chaos, of division and failure, and the choice tomorrow is to bring that to an end, to turn the page and start to rebuild with Labour. And I've been saying throughout this campaign that if they're returned on Friday for 5 more years of the Tories, we won't get anything different. It'll be the same. And they've evidenced it in the campaign, because Rishi Sunak started by campaigning with David Cameron. Then he borrowed Liz Truss's programme and put it in his manifesto of unfunded tax cuts. And last night they wheeled out Boris Johnson. When I say chaos, division and failure, they've just exhibited it in this campaign. They've made, but nothing is going to change. You've just seen it in the last 6 weeks. 5 more years of the same. And that's why we must go through today and through till 10 o'clock tomorrow making our argument. Because there are a lot of undecided voters still, lots of constituencies that will come down to a few hundred votes that make the difference. And people need convincing about the change that we need. They need convincing that change is possible and that they can vote for change. And we need to be clear with them that if they don't vote for change, if we don't get a Labour government, we could end up with more of the same on Friday morning. And we do have to say, imagine waking up on Friday morning and the headline is 5 more years of the Tories. Nothing's changed. They'll be emboldened, entitled, thinking they can get away with anything. So we have to make that case. We have to say over and over again, change only happens if you vote for it. Change only happens if you vote for it. And we have to say with confidence and assurance, imagine a Labour government starting its work to rebuild the country, to make sure that we have the public services we need, the infrastructure we need, the chance for every child and young person to have the opportunity to go as far as their talents will take them. Imagine, wherever you come from, whatever your background, the chance to get on, and that change in Westminster that will make such a difference to the lives of millions of people. That's why we're here in the Labour Party. That's why we've campaigned so hard. And the special benefit, the double benefit in Wales. Because if we get a Labour government in Westminster, then for the first time in 14 years, we get two governments working together. Not in conflict, not constantly seeking to undermine what's going on here in Wales, but doing what Vaughan and I did in the last week, picking up the phone, getting in touch with each other. How can we work together to deliver in Wales? What a huge opportunity we have. We've got to get out there every minute, every hour of today and tomorrow, all the way through till 10 o'clock. Fight for every single vote. This is an incredible opportunity for change across the whole of the United Kingdom and a double opportunity to deliver here in Wales for every single person and household. Let's go out, let's do it with that smile, that positivity, our argument before the country, hoping for that victory tomorrow. Thank you all so much.
There we go. High energy Keir Starmer there in Wales as the campaign for Labour Party votes continues. Vaughan Gething there, who introduced him, the Labour First Minister, a little earlier at that campaign event in Carmarthenshire. We'll leave that campaign event now and just bring you, if we can, the full list of candidates in that area. I think they're coming up on your screen right now. You can't see them particularly well, but they are there, I promise you. And if you would like to find out who the candidates are in any constituency across the country, you're more than welcome to go to the BBC's website. Now, the general election candidates, they're fighting for every last vote, are they not, in these final hours before polling day? But it's in the battleground seats where we are seeing the fiercest campaigning. Today, we're focusing on two constituencies. In Surrey, we're in Guildford. It's currently held by the Conservatives, but being targeted by the Lib Dems. And we're also in the Scottish seat of Glenroth and Mid-Fife, held by the SNP since 2015, but Labour is hoping to take it tomorrow. Well, I'm joined now by BBC political reporter Jack Feen, who is in Guildford. And then in Glenroth and Mid-Fife, we have Alistair Clark, who is political editor at The Courier. Thanks both of you for joining us. Jack, let's go to you first and talk me a little bit through what is happening in Guildford, because ultimately a seat like that would be a good one to change places from the Conservatives to Lib Dems, for the Lib Dems, that is.
Yeah. That's right, yes. I mean, it's the one place in Surrey where a party other than the Conservatives has actually won a seat. So the Liberal Democrats won in 2001 and then very narrowly lost a few years later in 2005. And then in the 2019 general election, again, the majority was significantly reduced. So this is an area where they believe they can win. I was at Hustings last week speaking to the candidates, and the Liberal Democrat candidate said that they believe they could win, although, of course, they also said that nothing was guaranteed and they weren't taking anything for granted. It's interesting to hear that the local Conservative candidate says it's all to play for, that the national picture is not being reflected in the local polling, and there are local issues that could still mean that she can win this seat. But it's very much, it's going to be close. That's the estimation from everyone. And it does look as though it will be this fight between the Liberal Democrats and the Conservatives.
And Jack, just talk me through, if you can, what are the big issues there? There are concerns, aren't there, about sewage, about discharge into local rivers, other elements as well that are worrying people. Talk me through all those.
That's right. So although this is a wealthy part of the country, there are concerns. There are also areas of poverty as well. But yes, one of the big issues has been the situation with sewage discharge being pumped into local rivers, like the River Wey. This is the whole county, in fact, not just Guildford. It's a river county, and this is a widespread concern. Then there are also local issues as well, sort of things like traffic, development, affordable housing is a big issue. There's a big question over the town of Guildford, over the state of the town centre, lots of concern about empty shops. And then you hear the more national issues, things like immigration, cost of living, the NHS, access to GPs, they all come up as well. So there are some specific local issues here in Guildford, but there's also, again, the national concerns that we hear about time and time again.
OK, Jack, good to talk to you. Alistair, let's talk to you now. And where you are is interesting, isn't it? Because it's been held by the SNP since 2015, but those boundaries have changed ever so slightly, haven't they, Alistair? And that means that Labour have a better chance this time?
Yeah, so this seat was won by the SNP pretty comfortably in 2015, and it's been won by the SNP pretty comfortably at every election since then. The boundaries have changed slightly. They now take in parts of what was the Kirkcaldy and Cowdenbeath constituency, and those are areas where Labour think they'll perform slightly better this time around. Unlike obviously the rest of the UK, a lot of the issues here are devolved to the Scottish Government, but people will head to the polls with those in their minds. So things like the NHS, things like schools, where I'm outside a school this morning, people will head to the polls tomorrow with those things in mind. And obviously the SNP don't want it to become a referendum on the Scottish Government, while the opposition parties in Scotland definitely do want voters to head to the polls with that in mind.
And Alistair, talk me through apathy, because that has been an issue, hasn't it, in so many areas for this election. Is there a concern that, in a way, this election is something that the people in those areas are just kind of, tired of politics?
Yeah, speaking to voters, I'm never convinced apathy is always the right word. I think I can understand why we use that word, but I think, people do have a sense that sort of everything doesn't work quite right, or doesn't work as well as it should. And they don't quite know that any politician's got the answer to fix that. And I think that is the sort of bit behind that feeling, rather than sort of not caring about the community. People here in Glenrothes and Mid-Fife definitely do care about their community. They're just maybe not sure that any politician's got the answer, rather than that they don't want to find an answer.
Very interesting, isn't it? Let's cross to Jack briefly. Jack, I wanted to ask you as well about that. How engaged are people in Guildford with politics, both on a local and national level?
I think they are engaged. I mean, the hustings that I went to last week was well attended, and we've had several that have been going on throughout the election campaign. That being said, it's not easy. It's not difficult, rather, to find people who say sort of none of the above. They're all the same, and there's kind of dissatisfaction with the state of politics at the moment. But I think, again, there are posters and billboards up around the area for the different political parties as well. So there is certainly a lot of interest, and leaflets coming through the doors as well. So people are definitely aware of this election and what's happening. But there's also quite a lot of discontent as well.
OK. Jack Fiend, BBC political reporter, and Alistair Clark from The Courier. It's so good to get your takes. Thank you, both of you, once again for joining us. It's been really good, hasn't it, to go around the country and to get a feel for what people are thinking. Let me just bring you these graphics, these names. These are the candidates that have been selected to battle it out in the constituency of Guildford. There they are on your screen. And if we can move on, these are the candidates in Glenrothes and Mid-Fife. Now, of course, as always, all the candidates for all the constituencies around the country are available on the BBC's website. You can go there, or you can use the BBC's News app. Let's take you to other news now, because the mother of the missing teenager Jay Slater has told of her pain and agony after searches failed to find her son in Tenerife. The 19-year-old went missing on the 17th of June after he told a friend he was lost in the mountains. In a statement issued through the missing persons charity LBT Global, Ms Duncan said that the family were absolutely devastated. Nikki Schiller reports.
Words cannot describe the pain and agony we are experiencing. He is our beautiful boy with his whole life ahead of him, and we just want to find him. The words of Jay Slater's mother, Debbie Duncan, after searches failed to trace her son. The 19-year-old from Lancashire has been missing since the 17th of June, after he told a friend he was lost in the mountains. He was in Tenerife to attend a music festival with friends, his first holiday abroad without his parents. Helicopters, drones and search dogs were all deployed to try and find him in the steep, rocky area. But over the weekend, the local police called off the search for the apprentice bricklayer. In her statement issued through the British Overseas Missing Persons charity LBT Global with this new picture of Jay, Debbie Duncan thanked officers who she said had worked tirelessly up the mountains where Jay's last phone call was traced. She also hit out at some stories around her son's disappearance, saying, "We are aware of the conspiracy theories and speculation on social media and some websites, and can only describe this as vile. The negative comments are extremely distressing to our family." Debbie Duncan did say the family had embraced the love and support they'd had from across the globe, but again appealed for privacy and urged the press to allow the Spanish police to get on with their investigations. The search for the 19-year-old was officially declared over on Sunday, but police have said the case remains open, although officials said they couldn't comment on reports that an Airbnb property that Jay Slater stayed at before he went missing has been searched again by investigators. Nikki Schiller, BBC News.
Right, let's take you back to politics because the Lib Dems are continuing on their campaign trail. And this is Sir Ed Davey, I think, in there. Can we see him? I can't see very well on my screen. Is it Ed Davey in there? Or shall we say Farmer Davey? He's riding a tractor today. And this, I think, I'm not sure that is Ed Davey, you know. Really? OK, listen, I'm going to defer to the greater knowledge of the people in the gallery. And they've got better eyesight than me as well. I've got a small screen in front of me. I can't quite see who it is. But look, what we do know is the Lib Dems are on the campaign trail in Wiltshire. There is a tractor involved. And the message today from the Lib Dems is there is a chance, in their words, to build a caring nation. That is what the Lib Dems are talking about. Now, of course, we've seen Ed Davey very much enjoying the campaign trail, let's say, doing things a little bit differently, bungee jumping, doing interviews while playing tennis, water sports, to name a few, Zumba, very recently. So this is yet another Ed Davey enjoyable stunt, and he has really had the most fun, hasn't he, out of all the party leaders. It goes without saying. Oh, I see what happened there. On the near side earlier, there was someone in the passenger seat. Ed Davey is driving next to that near side person. So I was right, and the gallery were right. This is the perfect combination. Right, let's take you back to our top line today on politics, and that is the Work and Pensions Secretary, Mel Stride. He made those comments earlier on the BBC, didn't he, on Radio 4, where he effectively conceded the election and said Labour were on their way to what he described as a massive majority. Here's the reaction from the Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer.
I think the Tories have run a very negative campaign, and they're failing to answer the question, what positive change would they bring for the country if you voted
What do you
Tory?
make of this particular messaging around what Mel Stride has said today? Like, what do you think of it as a tactic?
It's more of the same. It's really voter suppression. It's trying to get people to stay at home rather than to go out and vote. I say if you want change, you have to vote for it. I want people to be part of the change. I know there are very close constituencies across the country. I don't take anything for granted. I respect the voters, and I know that we have to earn every vote until 10 o'clock tomorrow night, and we will do that. But I do say to those that are still contemplating their vote, if you want change, and I genuinely think most people do, you have to vote for it. The change we can bring about will be hugely significant for our country. Be part of it so we can move forward as one country to improve the living standards of millions of people across the country.
Well, there we are, questioning Sir Keir Starmer on those Mel Stride comments. And we've been questioning all the political leaders throughout the whole of this campaign. And here at the BBC, we love a good montage, don't we? Here's a look back now at some of the answers those party political leaders gave us.
But I'll be honest with you, we weren't ready for this general election. So I want us to become the opposition voice in Parliament and in the country. That's the ambition.
But you must have a target for seats.
I've got no idea.
Why not? You're the leader.
Because I'm travelling optimistically.
But OK, but people
I have
will
no
want
targets.
if you say you're going to be a credible opposition, or you want to be a credible opposition, you will need seats. So how many?
We're going to win seats. How many? I don't know.
When Parliament comes back, however it is shaped, there needs to be an emergency health and care budget. We in the Liberal Democrats have put health and care right at the centre of our manifesto. We're the ones making it our top priority, the only party making it our top priority. We've got a quite ambitious programme. In the next Parliament, they can be sure if they get a Liberal Democrat MP, they'll be championing an emergency health and care budget, because I don't think our NHS can wait a day longer. I think we could have a lot of Liberal Democrat MPs in the next election. We could be a very strong voice.
More than you targeted?
Well, it seems to be going quite well.
We're not going to be forming the next UK government, so it's about how we use influence. This isn't an election about independence. It's an election about making sure that within the context that we're in now, within the UK, Wales has a fair crack at the whip.
So we're proposing a set of proposals that will create a better future, real hope and real change. And that's why we need a group of Green MPs in the next Parliament. The Green Party is the only party that's being honest in this election.
In the House of Commons, if you had, say, 1 or 2 Green MPs there among the 650, really, how much difference are they going to make? How would they sway any government with a big majority?
I think that the new government and Keir Starmer would quite like it if they didn't have a range of voices in Parliament that were scrutinising what they're doing. But it makes for a better government and a better democracy if there's a greater range of voices there.
We've suffered because of having 14 years of austerity from the Conservative government in the United Kingdom, and we're suffering because of the economic damage of Brexit. And my point is that all of these issues are a product of decision-making in Westminster, and Scotland would be in a stronger position if decisions were to be made in Scotland for Scotland.
Are you not effectively banging your head against a brick wall? It's a pointless argument. Both the Conservatives and Labour have said they will not engage in talks of another referendum.
What I want to make sure is that we have a debate about making a difference to the lives of people in Scotland. People are really struggling just now because of the effect of the cost of living crisis, because of the effect of spending cuts. And all of that is coming from decision-making in Westminster. Now, my answer to that is independence.
People still, despite the number of debates we've had, despite the number of times you've sat here with us on the sofa, still don't feel like they know the full picture from you, Keir Starmer, about what it will be like with you as Prime Minister.
We changed the Labour Party, and the Labour Party we put before the country is a changed Labour Party. We campaign as changed Labour, and we will govern as changed Labour. We will pick up the country in a broken state, put it back on its feet, and rebuild it so that we can take it forward and people can genuinely say, I am better off, myself, my family, my community and my country.
When it comes to the things that we want to do, people can see that we have turned a corner. It has been a difficult few years, but undeniably things are in a better place now than they were. People are starting to feel the benefits of that, and that's why, with confidence, I can say that I will keep cutting people's taxes, giving them that financial security.
I just want to tell you something that from the polling analyst, Sir John Curtis, who I am sure you are very familiar with. We asked him about the chance of you winning this election at the end of this week. He said this: there is more chance of lightning striking twice in the same place and a bit more than Rishi Sunak remaining as Prime Minister. Do you accept that?
No, that's his view. That's not going to stop me from working as hard as I can over these final few days to as talk to many people as possible about the choice.
Rishi Sunak ending that montage there. Now, time for a look at the weather with Carol.
Hello again. If you have an allergy to pollen, today, for most of us, the levels are either low or moderate. The exception to that is across the far southeast of England, where the levels are high, and we're talking especially grass pollen at this time of year. Now, today we've got 2 weather fronts bringing rain. The first one pushing into the North Sea, the second one moving from the west towards the east. And as you can see from the isobars, it's going to be a breezy day wherever you are. So as the rain clears away to the east, there'll be residual cloud and a few showers, some dampness left behind it. The second weather front also moves eastwards. It's later in the day that we see a return to sunshine and showers in western areas, with temperatures ranging from 12 to 18, possibly 19 in the far south. For Wimbledon today, well, play is likely to be interrupted with rain early doors, and then as that clears away, we're looking at a lot of cloud, which could produce some light rain or drizzle into the afternoon at times. Tomorrow is looking drier and brighter, but a bit windier. So this evening, you can see how the rain becomes ensconced in Shetland. Then we've got a plethora of showers across the northwest of the country. Here too, there'll be gusty winds, move further south, and it's drier and it's clearer, with overnight lows between 8 and 13 degrees. So then, as we head into tomorrow, we've got this little system scooting across the north of the country. And if you look at the isobars, it tells you it's going to be a windy day wherever you are, but the strongest winds will be in the northern half of the country. So we've got showers coming in courtesy of that weather front, some of them merging across Scotland to give some longer spells of rain. Could be heavy and thundery. Come further south and it's drier and brighter. These are the sustained wind speeds you can see in the circles. The gusts, of course, will be more than that. And our temperatures, 11 to 15 in the north, will feel cool in the wind and the rain. If you get out of the wind and into the sunshine in the south, 20 will feel quite pleasant. Now, Thursday night into Friday, we've got this next system coming in across southern areas. That too is going to introduce some more rain. It clears during the course of Saturday and the isobars open out, so it's not going to be as windy. But certainly on Friday, wet and windy in the south, sunshine and showers in the north, and it remains changeable as we head through the rest of the week.